ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, Tragic, and I'm here to help you look at some societal and political issues. And today we'll be looking at feminism and specifically the incident that happened about a year ago with Zarna Joshi and a guy by the name of Rudy who referred to him as humongous. So this show, of course, is just to give you guys a little bit of background on a couple of issues. I would recommend that you guys go check out a couple liberal YouTube web series as well, because it's always good to have two sides of the opinion before you make up your own. And okay, so going right into it. The idea of feminism is that women and men are not inherently equal in society. Women believe that there is something that's holding them back from becoming as equal as men. Whether that's the workforce, whether that's societal pressure placed upon them by the so-called patriarchy that controls society, or whether that's just some uncontrollable factor that nobody has any influence on, but that's not really looked into that much. So the entire idea of feminism has gone back a couple hundred years, but specifically it started really having an impact on society within the 1910s and 1920s with the movement led by Alice Paul and the suffragettes, who were trying to get women the right to vote. Now, back then, there was actual societal and political pressure to not allow women to be as equal as men, which is why they didn't allow them to vote in the first place. That's why it's not found in the Constitution that women or people of color can vote, because they didn't consider them as equal as men. Now, I understand from that standpoint, way back when, that there was an entire issue of women not having the same rights as men, and therefore people should have been able to the right to fight for them. However, New Wave feminism, or modern day feminism as it's more commonly referred to, is the idea that the patriarchy is somehow holding women back from both earning the same wage as men and both having the same kind of say in political ideologies as men. Now, this entire idea stemmed upon two things. One, that women do not earn as much as men. Now, people tend to refer to the surveys that take a wide scope of all the earnings by men and women, and there's clearly a difference about 16 cents on the dollar that women find when they take these surveys. However, if we look at a survey done by Christina Hofsummer, who is a feminist writer, she identifies that women tend to take more holidays and leave more likely than men. And because of this, it actually leads to a distinction where women make more than men. Women make about a dollar or two to the dollar that a man makes, which means women generally have more of a increase in pay than men. Now, this is also demonstrated by the fact that women are also chosen for jobs within the STEM field at higher rates than men. In fact, the survey in the Huffington Post shows that women going into an interview for a STEM position, which is math or science, have a 2-to-1 advantage of getting hired over a man. This is because employers try to demonstrate that they're both culturally and sexually diverse within their employment. So they try to hire more women to make up for the fact that women think that they're being discriminated against in the workforce. It is also illegal, mind you, to discriminate against somebody based on their sex. So someone cannot be hired or fired simply based on their sex. That's discrimination, either against one person or another. The second idea is that the patriarchy is somehow holding women from being able to gain political status and have a political opinion, essentially. However, if we look at surveys done in other countries, such as Denmark and all the Nordic countries that Senator Bernie Sanders tries to refer to as these utopias, it actually shows that women have a higher rate of going to and receiving further education than men. However, they choose not to pursue a career that they originally intended. So women going to college have both increased in graduating more than men and increased in their chances of getting a higher position than men. However, they choose not to do so for their own reasons. Now, this entire idea of feminism takes away the person's ability to choose their own position, the person's opportunity to seek a certain position within their societal or political statuses. Now, we can see from this most recent election that Hillary Clinton had the opportunity to win the race. Now, whether or not she won doesn't really matter because it was up to the voters in the Electoral College what happened. It wasn't up to some male patriarchy. The voters ultimately chose Donald Trump. This wasn't somehow planned by the patriarchy. This entire idea that a patriarchy is holding women back is not supported by any facts or data. It's just this liberal mindset that women have to be held back somehow. However, I'll pose this question. If you believe inherently that women are held back, regardless of how much opportunity they have, are you not also basing your ideas on sex? You're saying that women in general have to be held back somehow. There's no way that society can be equal to women and men. However, as the pay gap or lack thereof demonstrates, and as the surveys done in Nordic countries demonstrates, women have more opportunities nowadays than men. Is there some female matriarchy holding back men? No. This is all due to people's own actions. They have to take accountability for what they do. And if women choose to take leave more than men, and if they choose to take vacations more than men, then they have to accept that employers can't just pay them as much as they do men, even though the men have a less likely chance of leaving for vacation or for leave. So that was feminism, and right now I'm just going to dive really deep into this confrontation that happened between Zarna Joshi, and Rudy. So Rudy, he was being interviewed for this city town hall kind of thing that happened in Seattle, where he essentially defended the police's idea of having a barrack. It was a type of plan that the police were going to implement, and and it was kind of centered more towards drug addicts, and that's the reason they interviewed him, because his daughter was actually a recovering drug addict. So he had both experience with the police and with drugs in his life, so he knew what he was talking about. They decided to interview this man, and afterwards, Zarna approaches him, and she starts asking him, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? And he says, well, it's humongous. Keep in mind, he was not under any obligation to give this strange woman that approached him out of nowhere his name. He could have said anything he wanted, and that's what feminists don't seem to understand. There's no such thing as hate speech. There's no such thing that's speech that's illegal, except if it causes harm to somebody else. So, for example, if you tell somebody to punch somebody, and you keep forcing them, and you keep kind of pushing them to do it, and then you threaten them if they don't do it, then that's considered violent speech. They're not allowed to do that. But otherwise, there's no speech that is prohibited by the Constitution. The Constitution allows for free speech. Now, someone can sue you if they have emotional distress by something that you say, or if it's slander, but that's not hate speech. There's no such thing as hate speech. It's just rhetoric that's used by liberals. So going back to this incident, she asked him what his name was. He said humongous, and she starts repeating, humongous what? Humongous what? And he just keeps saying humongous, and he starts walking away. And she insinuates that him saying humongous to her is somehow sexual assault. Well, even if we were going to take that entire stretch of saying it was sexual assault, and assault in most jurisdictions is the physical touching from one person to another. In some, it's actually the verbal abuse of somebody to somebody else. Verbal abuse is something that has to actually have emotional distress on somebody. It has to make them think that they're in immediate danger. And him making a dad joke does not do that. It does not classify as emotional distress. So she actually gets the police called on her for the disturbance that she's causing to the peace. She's screaming at this private location. She's yelling at him. She's pushing security guards. The fact that she wasn't arrested for this is a miracle on her part. So today we went through this entire incident that happened with this woman, Zarna Joshi, and a man by the name of Ruby, who we proudly refer to as humongous. And then we went through the idea of feminism as well as how it's progressed. The entire idea of feminism isn't that inherently evil. It's a good idea to think that male and female should be equal. However, it's evolved into something that is no longer that idea. In fact, if you look at polls of women within America or women within Britain, they agree with what I'm saying. 1 in 10 women identifies with this new wave feminism, even though 4 out of 5 women agree that there is a disparity between the genders. So obviously there's something wrong with the entire idea of new wave feminism. So thank you guys for checking out today's video. If you guys have any comments or anything that you want me to make a video on, please comment down below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share to your friends, share to your family, share that naked man running across the street, because that's, yeah. And thank you. Have a nice day.